possible that this van has even less legroom than your cramped little Civic?
Well, better get comfortable. How far is it?
Lyra sat in the front seat of the van, where she had a good view of what Philadelphia had become. The sky had turned a sickly green color and was splotched with low-lying pink clouds. They drove through what had been a small neighborhood, though the lines of driveways led to empty lots. At the end of the street was a tower made up of all those houses, now stacked haphazardly on top of one another. As they passed the main city, they could see entire blocks had floated up into the air and become islands. Twilight was seated in the back between Paul and Monica. The other ponies were still at Lyra's house. The van was big, but only big enough for the 6 humans plus 1 pony. Twilight had volunteered to come along. After all, she had done the most reading, on the elements as well as on humans.
It took us about 2 hours to make this trip in the other direction. How is it looking?
Oh, no problem.
He slammed on the brakes as a swarm of levitating pies floated across the road ahead of them. He watched them go by with a completely expressionless face. After they had passed, he hit the gas again and they rumbled forward.
This is a great day for driving back and forth across 3 states.
You're being sarcastic, aren't you?
It hadn't taken them more than 15 minutes after Audrey and Nathan had arrived to load up the van and hit the road. Lyra was glad to finally be on the way. She hadn't been able to see much of the corruption from home, and it was turning out worse than she had expected.
So now I think it would be a good time for you to explain what exactly is going on.
She inspected the necklace she was holding, the one that Lyra thrust into her hands before practically ordering everyone into the car.
This is what you tried to tell me before, right? About the unicorns?
Still can't believe you didn't mention any of that to me.
Not all of us are unicorns. Ponies is the more general term. I get that you didn't believe me before, since it really does sound crazy. And humans aren't very well informed about unicorns either. That book you recommended was all wrong.
Yeah, I see that now. I thought they would at least be the size of a regular horse.
And humans think that unicorns live out in the woods too, like animals or something. Seriously? I mean, technically the library is built inside a tree. Ponyville's not a big town by any standards, but we at least have houses.
What are you really, though? I'm still not clear on that part.
A human, just like you. I came to Equestria when I was still very young. I'm not sure how, but I was adopted by ponies who found me, and Princess Celestia turned me into a normal unicorn filly.
Just a normal unicorn.
Well, relatively speaking, from the equestrian point of view, you're all much stranger than...
So how is it that I found you wandering around the middle of Iowa if you came from this magical land or whatever?
That's kind of a long story. The truth is, I've always wanted to be a human. I think there's some part of me that remembered that I was born in this world. I had these dreams, not to mention all the books I found about humans. I studied you for years.
No wonder you're such an avid reader.
The information we had was limited, though. The princess removed most of what was left of humans after, well, from my understanding, and this is all fairly new to me as well, humans did live in Equestria, up until the point where Discord wiped them all out.
Wiped them all out. And that's what we're up against now. Good. No pressure then.
Wait, so all of this that's happening now, that caused humans to go extinct in your world? I get that this is insane, but how does it end up doing that?
They drove over a long, deserted bridge as they left the city behind them. On either side, you could see the river flowing, a thick brown that was probably more chocolate milk. The surface was covered in tiny ripples as the rain hit. The road changed to a checkerboard pattern about halfway over, and once they had finished crossing, they were greeted by trees with red and white peppermint trunks. A green metal sign told them, "Welcome to New Jersey."
Thank goodness it's completely unharmed.
I don't think it looked anything like this when we drove through the first time.
No, what I meant was, geez, you really did grow up in some other world, didn't you?
Getting back on subject, what Discord is doing goes far beyond just the chaos he's causing on your world itself. He also drives ponies and humans against each other. He did that to me and my friends when we tried to stop him in Ponyville. And he's doing that to the humans here now. He wants to start conflict between us until we finish ourselves off.
Which you'd already started doing in New York. The place was a madhouse.
Good thing we're headed directly to the center of the whole thing. I mean, it wasn't nearly crazy enough out here already.
Looking out at the world they were driving through, it was hard to believe this was the same human world that she had come to. Lyra was actually used to the human world by now. or at least as used to a place like this as you can get. And there was still the sick feeling that if she'd never come here, Discord never would have found out that humans were still around, and none of this would have happened in the first place.
I was never actually supposed to find out I was a human. I just kept having these dreams about this world, even though I didn't even know what it was. And the princess found out about the studies I'd been doing. You mean that research project she assigned me? So all that time I was reporting back to her on our findings, she was actually just interested in you? She realized I knew more about humans than I was supposed to. That's why she gave me the choice to come back here if I wanted. And of course I did.
You would actually choose Earth over the place where you came from? I talked to the other ponies, and they made it sound like a pretty nice place over there.
I guess, but finding out I was a human was the most exciting thing that ever happened to me. You wouldn't really understand, not until you'd had to go your entire life with hooves.
How long had you been human before I met you? You were playing the harp. With fingers. How did you learn to do that?
I'd only been a human for a few hours at that point. Besides, the first time I ever... Well, I mean, of course, it was the first time I've ever had hands, but it came naturally to me. I was meant to be a human after all.
Well, freaky musical talent aside, you were pretty hopeless out in the human world. I always knew there was something different about you.
Well, yeah! Des Moines was so different from anything in Equestria.
If Equestria was anything like this...
This is all Discord's work. Equestria is usually much more normal. I haven't seen much of what's considered normal for you humans, though. But I'm really glad I met you, Audrey, even if our first meeting could have gone better.
Oh, that! Right. Unicorns don't eat that kind of food, do they?
You meet a visitor from another world, and you made possibly the worst first impression they could have gotten. You're lucky she even stayed around after that.
Wait, what are you talking about? What happened? It's nothing, just a cultural misunderstanding. That's really all it was. But it's the thought that counts. The important thing is that when you talked to me, I really started to feel like I belonged here. I realized humans could be just as friendly as ponies. And that's why now I know that we can use the elements to save our world.
Yeah, let's just skip to what we're trying to do right now. You still haven't explained what we have to do with any of this.
She looked at the necklace again. The gemstone on it felt authentic, but it looked tacky. She had half expected it to be plastic when she first saw it.
Discord can only be stopped by the power of harmony. And as my closest human friends, I know you'll be able to help me.
Audrey, we're new to all this too. But we were talking with the ponies at Lyra's house. You get used to them after a while. And it's really simple.
So, what happens after we do whatever it is we're meant to do? I mean, all this doesn't just vanish, does it?
Actually, it does. Everything in Equestria was set back to normal by the power of the elements. They use a very powerful type of magic, which is why we can rival even Discord's power.
Oh, so that'll just fix everything. After we've been having chocolate milk rain and magic ponies all over the place. I wonder if anything really will be back to normal.
Well, yeah, it'll have to be. Look, we'll worry about that later.
You sure we'll be able to do this, Lyra?
Of course, it'll work.
The trip back to New York didn't seem to last nearly as long as it did the first time. It was oddly empty out here on the roads. There were patches where the road started to twist and turn, running up and down in random directions, or it would just be covered in a layer of soap. Audrey claimed it had been like this all the way back to Ohio, which she clarified was a couple 100 miles away. When they passed the car, it was usually heading in the same direction as they were, deeper into the cloud of chaos covering the human world.
When Discord came to Ponyville, most ponies actually wanted to get out of town, and I agreed. Why would anybody want to be going towards it?
The bridge into the city's coming up. Get ready, everyone.
Lyra was snapped back to the present and looked up. The roads around them were still empty of traffic, but they could see something up ahead. Given what they'd just driven through, it could be anything.
What is that anyway?
They were coming up closer to what it was. Dull green shapes on the road ahead. They stood out more than they usually would, against the road and metal bridge frame that had turned into a garish mix of bright colors and patterns.
Wait, we need to turn around. There's other ways into the city, right?
What's the problem?
That's Randall! Turn it around right now!
A blockade? You've got to be kidding me.
You mean a human military?
Sure enough, the green shapes were trucks, humans in green uniforms. It was hard to tell, but it seemed like they were carrying weapons that she recognized from photographs in her recent studies.
There's no way we're getting past this. Any bright ideas?
Speed up.
What?
You have to get in there. Discord's probably using them to keep us out. Just keep going and don't slow down. I've read about this. We can't do that, Twilight. If they have the kind of weapons that the book said, just do it!
Randall, probably in spite of his better judgment, slammed on the gas. The human soldiers in front of them were motioning at them to stop. Then when they got closer, raised the black objects they held.
What are you?
They were suddenly already part way across the bridge. There was a loud noise coming from behind them, some kind of rapid clattering noise on the pavement, and even on the back of the van. Randall spun around.
You crazy purple horse, what did you just do?
Whoa! Eyes up front!
The car swerved, but he steered it back on track. Randall glanced up at the rearview mirror and gave another burst of speed.
Simple teleport magic. We're past the guards now. I knew it would be hard to transport something like this, but
They were shooting at us. We could have been killed. We could still get killed!
I was worried that would happen. How did Discord manage to get the human military out here?
This happens all the time in movies. Weird stuff is happening in the city, the military gets called in to help. They were sent right to his door.
Great. Last thing we need is for Discord to have humans already starting to fight each other. Let's keep going. We need to find him.
The city was coming into view. Lyra had only been to New York once, and Discord had already been here at that point. But it wasn't hard to notice what had changed. Buildings were sticking out at odd, tilted angles. Most of them were still gray, while others had changed into whatever colors Discord had felt like. Bright pink, green, blue, even a few with stripes or polka dots.
So, what's Discord look like? How will we know when we find him?
Head for the center of the city. That's where we found him last time.
That was around Times Square, wasn't it? Nah, it doesn't matter. I've got no clue where we are.
The bananas hanging above the road, which may have been spotlights at one point, were shaking slightly. A low rumble was coming closer. Eventually they could feel it shaking the van itself. Randall hit the brakes.
That sounds big. Is it him?
I don't think so. Discord doesn't usually...
A massive green foot came down in front of them, striding across the intersection. Lyra leaned forward for a better look. It was a massive figure in some kind of green cloak, the same dusty green as the foot had been. Everyone gasped at it in disbelief. There was a long silence as it walked past, and the vibrations from the footsteps died down. Whatever it was headed across town now.
Was that?
I think so, yeah.
I really shouldn't be surprised as I am given the situation. How about we go the other way? We'll avoid her.
Sounds like a plan.
The pavement was cracked and the ride was getting bumpier as they went further into the city. There was no sign of that giant thing, whatever it had been. Every once in a while they would have to drive around a piece of building that had fallen off, or a car abandoned in the middle of the road.
I don't think she was moving too fast. Should be easy to avoid her.
Why do you keep saying she? What was that anyway?
A whistle blared from behind them, and a train sped down the road they had just passed.
How are we supposed to avoid something like that?
Just keep going and be careful. Discord could do anything.
And if you decide to do any of that teleportation stuff again, warn me first. Alright?
Got it. Sorry.
But the way ahead was suddenly closed off when a skyscraper burst through the road and stretched above them. Randall swerved just in time to miss it, and headed around the corner.
He's blocking us off. Go that way.
Where did that come from? Did I mention earlier that this is completely crazy? Because it's completely crazy!
We're going where Discord wants us. This is it. He was never like this last time.
I knew we were up against something big, but that? You still haven't really explained this. What do these necklaces do anyway?
That's complicated.
The ground was shaking, and all around them the city was shifting, moving itself to block off all escapes. Now entire buildings were being pulled down to the ground, clearing off an area as others sealed off the last of the exits. Randall slammed on the brakes. He slumped back in the chair, his hand still gripping the wheel with white knuckles.
What now?
Discord knows you're here. If we're going to face him, this is the time to do it. Good luck.
Lyra was the first one to swing open the door. She reached up and straightened the crown on her head. It didn't feel like anything other than just dull metal. It was a wonder that it even fit a human. Just a non-magical human. The side door slid open and Audrey stepped out, followed one by the others.
I'm still not clear on what's going on here, and now I'm getting a really bad feeling about this.
Lyra's legs were shaking from the crazy ride through the city. Or maybe it was just nerves. It was hard to tell. She glanced around the clearing they had stopped in, and couldn't help but feel like this place was eerily calm compared to the rest of New York. The buildings had stopped moving, but there was no way out. None of them had doors, just flat walls where they would have been.
Lyra, is that you? I wondered if I'd be seeing you again. And... oh, what's this?
A bright flash right in front of them, and Discord was there, a snake-like body towering above the humans. He twisted around, reclining as he examined them. His eyes narrowed, then opened wide with a grin spread across his face.
The elements of... oh, I wondered what you'd do when I gave you back your magic, Lyra, and you came up with this. It's more than I ever expected. You managed to make yourself human again, and you get your little human hands on the elements of harmony. Oh, it's too rich, Lyra. Simply too rich.
What is that?
Despite everything they had just driven through, now she looked genuinely shocked, as did the other humans.
Oh, I apologize. Where are my manners? Allow me to introduce myself. Discord, spirit of chaos and disharmony, as well as this world's new ruler. You're probably already familiar with the changes I've made.
Lyra? Any bright ideas now?
Oh, I'm sure that your old friends must have told you what happened, Lyra. Those elements didn't work for them, and they certainly won't work for you. Not even Luna and Celestia could help the humans once I had them.
Lyra still remembered what she had been told by the princess.
Humans are too chaotic already. Discord grew to incredible power by using them. What am I doing here? I just brought in more humans to play with.
Ever since I set up my new capital here, humans haven't failed to advertise it for me. They're coming in by the flock now. Oh, surely you must know how fascinated humans are by the idea of the end of the world. They're just begging for it to come, Lyra. I'm only doing what humans have been looking forward to for years now.
I have to do something, but what? No. Humans aren't just chaotic. We're more than that.
Oh, I beg to differ. I've been through all this before. You've only just arrived, Lyra. You haven't even scratched the surface of what your species has to offer. Did you enjoy the welcoming committee?
It's coming to me now.
She looked around at her friends. Audrey's eyes met hers.
The message is clear. What now?
And then Lyra saw the necklace, the one she'd chosen to give to her.
I'd only just gotten here when I met Audrey, and she was my first friend. She let me stay with her. Without her kindness, I would have been lost in this world.
Lyra, what are you doing?
And then I met Nathan, and he gave me something, just a guitar, but it meant so much. I finally found out what I was meant to do as a human. It was one of the most generous gifts I'd ever gotten.
You still owe me for that.
This is all very fascinating. Do go on.
And Randall welcomed me into his band. I got to perform music with real humans, and he even helped me find my parents. Even now, he's shown some real loyalty, even if he thought I was crazy.
You are crazy.
You're bringing me into this now, aren't you?
Of course! Out of all the weird things I experienced in the human world, that airplane was the strangest. But I wasn't afraid because you shared your laughter with me.
And now?
You helped me overcome one of the hardest challenges of all, Monica. All this time I'd been lying to everyone. But you convinced me that I had to be honest. To my family, to all of you, to myself. And I'm so much happier now that everyone knows the truth about me.
How much longer is this going to go on? All this means nothing. Do you really think you humans can use the elements of harmony?
Of course we can. Magic has nothing to do with this. The important thing is that I realized that all these humans were the best friends I'd ever had, and that I belonged here in this world with them. I thought I'd never be a normal human, but thanks to them, I know we can accomplish anything!
What happened next felt too fast to comprehend, and yet everything seemed to have slowed down. Lyra felt some kind of power flowing through her. It was almost like when she'd used magic as a unicorn, but of course she had no horn anymore. It was going to the crown on her head, focusing on the gemstone. She could see a purple light flowing out of it, and that was joined by even more beams coming from behind her, from each of the humans. All that she really needed to understand could be seen on Discord's face. His eyes had gone huge as soon as he realized what was happening. For a while there, Lyra had been thinking this was all a huge mistake too, but now she knew better. She heard something that might have been him screaming, but it sounded very far away. Lyra could still feel all that power rushing out of her, and, somehow, she could feel it coming from the others too. The entire time she was very aware of their presence, that all of those powers had combined into one, and was now rushing out over the city, across the entire country, to places in the world she'd never seen. At some point, Lyra's feet touched back down onto the street. She'd never realized that she had ever been lifted above it. Her senses came rushing back to her. Her surroundings changed from blurred colors into more defined forms. A city square, with a very odd statue in the center. The familiar smells of the human world, those smoky fumes from their cars, and the faint smell of fried food from a nearby restaurant. It was all so quiet. But then...
No, seriously, what the hell just happened?